So here we are on Transformers issue 9, a whole month later, and we are back. And man, oh man, things get real spicy in this issue. So this picks up right after where we left off in issue 8, where the Autobots were on the ready to see what the Decepticon signal was, and we see Cliffjumper piloting Jetfire, who can't transform, but they see a bunch of energy readings in the area that they are at, and as they get closer, we see Shockwave talking to Soundwave and getting ready to initiate their plan, which is to open up a space bridge between Cybertron and Earth. And we see this big beam shoot up in the sky. As that is happening, we see the Autobots are looking at the vortex and wondering what is causing this big beam. And as they are going to check it out, they get hit and they crash onto the ground, and they crash bad. And man, poor Jetfire again. Like, bro was brought back to life, but he can't see nor can he transform or move. And then he gets clipped by this energy pulse, and now probably is dead again. But we see the Autobots get completely blitzed by the Constructicons and all the Decepticons as they start to open fire. And as we Optimus telling the Autobots to take cover, we see Cliffjumper at the top of the space bridge, who is confronted by Shockwave. And dude, let me tell you something. Shockwave is not someone to be trifled with. Like, think in every Transformers continuity, bro has always done some type of mischievous stuff. But we see Shockwave say the rabble rousers are still fighting back, I see. And as Cliff and Optimus are worried for what's to come next, Shockwave says, we Decepticons have work to do, and goes on to say, you Autobot scum are interrupting our glorious mission. And Soundwave chimes in and says, we have succeeded, brother. And we see Shockwave transform into his gun mode, and Soundwave wields Shockwave as Soundwave says, let us be done with this foolishness. And as Soundwave is about to pull the trigger, we see Ratchet come in and save Cliffjumper by sacrificing himself, which is honestly shocking, man. I really thought Daniel Warren Johnson was going to just kill off Cliffjumper, but it seems like he still wants to keep him in the story as of right now. But as Ratchet takes the bullet for Cliff, #RIP Ratchet, Optimus comes in and saves Cliff and sees Ratchet and is upset to see another Autobot offline. And Shockwave kind of taunts Optimus here, saying how nothing has changed for him and that he is still caring for the weak. And as Optimus rebuttals, saying, weak? Do you forget our last meeting, Shockwave? Shall I make you cry for mercy a second time? And Shockwave attacks Optimus, telling him to be silent. And we shift to Wheeljack and RC with Carly as they are on their way to the dam to fix the machine they built, I believe, back in issue 4 that could bring other Autobots back alive, with the help of Sparky and all that. That's how RC came back, and Wheeljack. But we see as they are on their way, they are met and shot at by this little resistance group of guys with guns and blockades. And we learn to find out these are the same guys we saw back in like issue 2 or 3 that were led by Sparky, shooting at all the Cybertronians that move. It's very stupid. Like, these guys are stupid and irrelevant. But Carly is able to tell these guys that Wheeljack and RC are the good ones and they mean no harm. And Wheeljack says that is the Autobot promise. So we shift again to another point of view, which this happens quite a bit this issue, but we see Spike at the emergency room and talking with the doctor that did surgery on Spike. And we basically find out that Spike is not going to be able to walk again, but the doctor says to never say never, and anything can happen now since giant robots from space are here. And that is true, and this isn't the first time we see something like this before. I mean, like, back in like G1 we saw Chip, who was in a wheelchair, and then, in season 3 of I believe season 3 Return of Optimus Prime, we see Jessica Morgan, who was basically paralyzed from the waist down but ended up having a exoskeleton to move around. And especially in the 86 movie, we saw Spike and Daniel use exosuits to move around in space. So we might get to see that here. I don't know what Daniel Warren Johnson is going to do here with the exosuits, or if Spike is just going to be in a wheelchair. But it would be pretty cool to see, Spike in some type of exosuit or exoskeleton that can help the Autobots out. But they get interrupted here, and we see that they are getting interrupted by none other than Astrotrain. And it turns out his mission that Soundwave sent him out on was to retrieve Spike. And again, we have an interesting look here from Astrotrain, as he isn't blasting the place left and right, say like how Starscream has done before. And the doctor tells Astrotrain to leave and stop, as there are innocent people here. And Astrotrain basically says, look, I don't like to hurt people who are lesser than me, but I will gladly do it if I don't get what I want. And we see him point his gun to the hospital, but we see Spike come out and give himself up. And to Astrotrain, we see Astrotrain compliment Spike, telling him that Spike's bravery is inspiring and impressive, as he takes him and leaves off, which I gotta say is pretty cool to hear Astrotrain talk like this. And I feel like this is a lot better for Astrotrain than just to be raw, I'm gonna kill you all, blah, 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 because we kind of got that impression last issue. Like, he just kind of seemed like a meathead. So it's cool once again to see some more depth for these Decepticons. But we shift back to the fight on the space bridge, and Optimus is literally getting jumped. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, like he is getting jumped. But we see the Goat Jazz try and help the commander out, but Scrapper just straight up blocks him, and Shockwave picks up Optimus and tells him, "You fought dirty last time, Optimus, but I have learned much since that day." And Shockwave just pile drives Optimus, bam, like just pile drives him right into the ground, which is just brutal, man. And this knocks Optimus out, and Shockwave is all happy and is like, "Ha, I defeated Optimus Prime." You know, just pretty much boasting that he defeated Optimus. But we shift to Cybertron, which we pick up on Alita carrying this mysterious Autobot. I'm just gonna call this guy Magnus because a lot of people, myself included, think it's Magnus. But we see Alita pinned by the Combaticons. But we saw, I believe, issue 6 or issue 7, we saw the Combaticons, you know, shooting at Alita 1 originally before, you know, Cup and all, you know, nobody cares about Huffer, but like we saw those guys die and they were getting shot by the Combaticons. So we see Combaticons once again shooting at Alita, and we see Vortex kind of get the jump on Alita, and Alita's like, "Nope," and just smokes, like just smokes Vortex. And we see that she is still carrying Magnus, and she sees a bright light, and they go right to it, and it turned out Alita 1 went into the space bridge. So to all the people thinking that the fortress was Shockwave's lab, you would be correct. And to all the people that thought this whole Cybertron sequence was a flashback, you would be wrong. And I know a lot of people thought it was. I kind of thought it was, but it would kind of suck if it was a flashback. So I am glad to know, because we see Alita 1 jump into the space bridge and shove Shockwave as she sees Optimus, and now Alita 1 and Ultra Magnus are on Earth. Alita is pretty confused on what's going on, but we end up seeing the Combaticons also follow Alita into the space bridge, and we see Onslaught say, "Combaticons, merge to form," and Alita's like, "Nope." She grabs Optimus's ion blaster, blows up the space bridge, sending the Combaticons back into the space bridge and not letting them combine into Bruticus, and cuts off Brawl's body in half in the whole process, which is just brutal, man. And it sucks when you get to see Bruticus here, but to be honest, if they formed, this story would have just wrapped up just like that. Like literally just like that, because the Autobots who are injured and barely alive now have to go up against Bruticus. Nah, man. They would just lose. Also too, Vortex got smoked, so they would be missing like an arm, so I don't know how that would really work anyways. But we end up seeing Optimus, Alita, and Magnus pinned down. We also end up seeing the Moonbase Bros getting shot at as they get, you know, they just end up getting, you know, fired at, and they get knocked out. And Alita 1's basically telling Optimus that, like, look, we need to like retreat, like we need to get out, we got to cut the losses and go. And Optimus is like, "No, I don't want to." But Alita literally grabs Optimus and Magnus and says, "We need to go, and we need to go now." And she tells Optimus to transform and roll out, and we see Optimus drive Magnus away as Alita shoots, like, while she's like riding Optimus. It's really cool, but also really extreme, because literally everyone except Optimus is just left there to basically die. Like, Jetfire is probably dead, like hashtag rip Jetfire again, and then Ratchet's dead, and then we just see the two Moonbase Bros left to rust. And as like Soundwave's about to go and tell the Decepticons to go chase after them, Shockwave tells them no, and that they should focus on other things for the time being. And we see that, you know, that Cliffjumper and the Goat are left behind, and Shockwave says, "Oh, look, presents from Primus," as we see an injured Cliffjumper and the Goat being taken by the Decepticons, as Shockwave said they can be used for experiments. Very painful experience. And we just see them drag Jazz and Cliffjumper away, and Cliffjumper screaming, "No!" And this is just gruesome, man. I mean, like, this is why you don't mess with Shockwave. Like, I ain't even like a huge Shockwave fan, but like, man, like, you don't mess with this guy. Like, especially when he says something like this. This whole sequence is just gruesome. The Autobots bit off more than what they could chew, and we kind of had that feeling when we saw that last issue. Like, they didn't know what they were about to go up against, because I thought originally they were just going to go up against like Megatron, but no, it was the whole Decepticon fleet. And yeah, it ended terribly. And so now you have Optimus, Magnus, and Alita retreating back to Wheeljack and RC. It just gets crazy, man. It gets crazy, and we're not even done yet. I really just hope the Goat lives. But we switch to Astrotrain and Spike, and they're having this conversation here as Spike is asking what that big beam in the sky is, and Astrotrain literally says, like, basically says, yeah, it's a space bridge. We're going to use that to funnel energy and resources from Cybertron to Earth, and suck all the energy and resources from Earth into Cybertron, so Cybertron can, you know, not be a dead planet anymore. And as Spike is like, wait, that's my planet. Like, what are you doing? And Astrotrain basically says, tough luck, dude. You know, better luck next time. And Astrotrain says, your planet will be tortured. Like, he'll just be blunt. Like, yeah, your planet's gonna be tortured. Tough luck, dude. Maybe in the next life. But we see something latch on to Astrotrain. And to those wondering if you thought what you guys saw in the last issue at the beginning of the little island beach area looking thing you would be completely right. As Astro Train crashes into the ground from whatever latched onto him, knocking him out, we see Beachcomber to the rescue, man, and saves Spike. And I know y'all were hyped to see this man return, because we kind of just saw him lurking back last issue, but we didn't know if he was dead or not, or maybe if he fell from the arc when the arc was crashing. But this could mean that other mini bots like Windcharger and Cosmos, all those guys have already been on Earth longer than the Autobots, or maybe they, you know, fell out of the arc, or whatever the case may be. But Beachcomber comes in and saves Spike, and that's where this issue ends, man. Like, oh my god. And man, once again, I feel like I say this every video, but Skybound has cooked with another issue. Hats off to Daniel Warren Johnson and the team with another banger issue. And I'm really interested into seeing what Alita and Optimus and Magnus will do for their counterattack. But that's where this issue ends. And real quick, before I want to end this video, I know some of you know recently, but one of the goats of comic book YouTube, Comicstorian, has sadly passed away. And I'm sure like many of you, just like me, have, you know, grown up, watched his videos, or, you know, whatever it may be. But, you know, to me, him and Comics Explained are one of the inspirations of this channel. And honestly, when I saw Comicstorian back almost, man, like a year ago now, talking about the Skybound Comics and the launch of the Energon universe, I started really thinking about switching to that type of content. And I am very sad to hear that one of the pioneers of comic book YouTube, and one that has inspired many like myself, is no longer with us. So I just wanted to pay my respect to the legend. But I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure you guys tell your loved ones that you love them, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.